All right, nilikuwa napatilishwa kashai kagu. It is morning. We need to hydrate. We need to have our tea also. But welcome. Thank you so much for staying with us. We do appreciate that you continue to stay with us here on Good Morning Kenya. But in case you are just joining us, I am Jain Wambui and would absolutely love to know where you are watching us from this morning. So feel free, check in, use the hashtag Good Morning Kenya on Twitter. Our official station handle is at KBC Channel 1 across all the social media platforms. My handle is at Jain Wambui. So from politics to the roads, we now move to our family check segment. And today, as mentioned earlier, we are going to be continuing with the conversation that we started last week. Marriage, love and finances. Of course, love is in Anduikopo, but we'll particularly be looking at how we tie finances and marriage. Just see how you and I can build a financially happy marriage. And whatever this goes by there to whatever term you choose to use to refer to your engagement, whether the situation, whether it's an engagement, whether it's unknown, whatever you choose to go by, we welcome you to be part of this conversation. So if you have questions or comments, or you're just seeking clarification, feel free to use the aforementioned social media handles. So today, my panel still is with me. We have a couple and a professional to speak from, the professional side of the divide. That is Anastacia Kevoga. She is a marriage and family counselor. Good morning, Anastacia. Thank you for being with us. Good morning to you, Wambui. Karibu sana.
Thank you very much.
Now, today we have a different couple. We have Duncan Juma. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Karibu sana to the program.
Asante sana.
All right, and we also have Kendi Juma. Good morning.
Good morning, Wambui.
Karibu sana to the program.
Thank you.
We do hope after this conversation that tutaenda kupigana off air. All right, but let me start with you, Kendi. Our upbringing plays a huge role in who we grow up to be. So looking at finances and marriage, how would you say, growing up, the money behaviors that you have right now, how did your upbringing play in that? What role did it play in the way you handle money in this day and time?
I think a lot.
Yes.
There are things I had to unlearn because growing up we never used to talk about money. And at times you didn't know that maybe your parents are going through a hard time.
Yes.
So when you get married and you realize for you to have a good marriage, you need to learn how to talk about some of these things. It wasn't easy, small things like you're not supposed to disclose how much you earn, but this is the person I'm supposed to live with for the rest of my life. So for me, I think there are things I've had to learn and also unlearn as far as marriage is concerned. But it's played a lot. We bring a lot of baggage from our families into our marriages.
All right. Yeah. I'd also like to hear the same, from you, Duncan, looking at your upbringing in relation to your money habits in the institution of marriage right now.
Well, I think growing up, I didn't see a lot of money around me. So when you interact with money, you start maybe getting some level of money. At some level, it can even confuse you.
Culture shock.
I remember moving house just because my pay rise went up with 10,000 shillings, So because we didn't know much.
You moved the whole house.
No, like I realized after I got a pay rise that my neighbors can easily steal my shirts on the line. So, so bad financial decisions are that because I wasn't used to some level of money, So, but then now translating that into marriage and all that, now you also have to factor in that your spending is being monitored by your spouse and she's maybe using that to gauge as to whether you are a prudent father or not, So in essence, then how we were brought up, there was very little money around me. We would hear a lot of enda msome, we are nimejinyima niku, so because of that, then at some point you find some money and then you also learn on the job because sometimes you're just told soma, work hard, get a job, you'll get money, but you're never told how that money behaves, how you can either increase or reduce it, So growing up, very little, I would say, maybe just bad habits around spending, but also for us, where I come from, we settle for very less, I mean, we are happy with little, and which is, I think, a good thing if you think about it. But on the other hand, when you want to create wealth for either your generation and all, it's a totally new conversation on how you're supposed to either sacrifice now Or leave your children dead so that they remember you, so there are all those things you must,
leave your children dead so that they remember
so the decisions to make, yeah.
All right. Now, Anastacia, I know we touched on this last week, but for the benefit of our viewer, why is it important to understand your partner's upbringing with money, to understand how they even behave with money in this day and time? Like looking at growing up, did they have money or were they non-moneyed? Why is it important to understand that?
Yes, thank you very much. This is a wonderful conversation. Love, money, and finances. I want to say that one thing, a family is a system, and it shapes who we are. Our background can bring a backlash in our life, or can either bring success in our life. And as Kendi has said, our family system, they shape who we are in terms of our belief system, in terms of our mindset. Like we see the people who grow up with a poverty mindset. And by a poverty mindset, this is what I mean. Because you grew up like Juma and many others without seeing money, you can develop allowed you a mindset of poverty, because a family system, it shapes our belief system, it shapes our habits, and it also builds our character.
Yes.
So we become who we are based on where we are born and brought up. However, it is a decision that an individual makes to either reform, and reform, it is like changing the habit for the moment to fit the circumstances. But I go for transformation, whereby there is a change of a mindset. I grew up in poverty, I grew up with a lot of lack, but I'm changing my mindset to attracting what is called money or finances, or shaping myself to become either.
But that's not easy. That is, I think it's a whole mindset shift. That's not something that you can just wake up and decide.
Yes.
How do you go about that? And especially looking at the fact that there's a whole other human being right here, that you have to do this with them.
With them.
Yes.
Thank you very much for that question. By mindset, this is what I mean. You have to start with yourself first. It is very hard, as you've said, to change yourself and to change somebody else. And therefore, I encourage us from a personal perspective, whereby you decide that I am going to change my mindset. I was born and brought up in poverty. I was born and brought up in violence, whereby every time during the Edma, there was a fight because maybe your dad or somebody misbehaved, allowed money, and there was fight, and sometimes there was violence because there is that commotion whereby the conflicts arises when there is money. It is because of where they were coming from, our parents. Their mindset of poverty, you want to hold these, or you want to misbehave with money, and therefore it comes to an individual. Myself, this is what I want to do with money, and therefore I need to transform my mind. If you don't transform your mind to become a successful mindset, this is what happened, Wambui. You will always be lagging behind because you don't believe, one, you can be successful. You are still lagging in failures, and maybe you can also misbehave around money because you want to prove something to the society. I want to say this, that there is nothing that we have to prove to the society. You need to transform, to be transformed from within. And remember, when you're transformed, we call it the interpersonal, you also develop intrapersonal. When you yourself, you're okay in handling money, deciding aloud money, in budgeting, in being responsible, being accountable, you as individual. When you bring somebody else, you will plan along that ride. But if all of you have, and then money also develops within the personality of an individual. We also need to develop our personality. That is something that we are never told. And we also need to develop a good attitude towards money.
Okay, so let me come to you, Juma. Duncan, you both Juma. So we'll go on first name basis for the purpose of this conversation. You know, born from what Anastacia is saying, you know, understanding yourself as an individual and looking at you now, speaking as a man, because we live in a time, and you know, culturally so, the man is the head of the family, and in most situations you find the man could be in charge of the finances, but they could also be having their own struggles when it comes to finances. Either they are spendthrifts or they are misers. And for some, it's hard to strike a balance. Understanding your money habits as a man in line with being the provider, and mostly the provider of that particular institution. Family.
Okay, well, first of all, there are things Anastacia say that I agree with.
Yes.
Some I don't, but we are here. She will say she's the expert. One, the world is always, from a marriage standpoint, the world is always rigged against the man in that conversation. When I took my wife home, they were not asking what job she does. They were asking how does she look? Did he pick right? Like they were looking at her, you know, will her children struggle in school based on her face and stuff like that. When we went to her home, her relatives were asking, what does he do? You know? And they say it right that, and I'm saying this politely, say, let me skip that thought. It might cause me trouble. But they say pets and ladies are the only ones who have capacity to be loved unconditionally. So you'll hear a lady say, I want a man who has money, I want a man who drives a car, then say, and loves me unconditionally. Like it's very oxymoronic. But the point here is then for a man, you must bring something on the table for you to be, you know, to be considered anything. And things like man is the head of the family, practically speaking, practically speaking, as a man, any name you're given in the family has a responsibility and has money to it. So I discovered that I'm just a member of my family. This thing of head of the family, sometimes it's too expensive, but I'm just a member of the family and I provide for my family. But so the conversation around money, essentially as a man, when you're told you are a provider, your wife, from a love standpoint, your wife wants to be with you almost every time, but she still wants you to go and fend out, put your nose out there, be hit by lightning as you... But, you know, so the balance then is that you must have conversation around then how does this money work for all of us.
Yes.
I also discuss, it is common knowledge in the men's circles or men's conference that the ladies' money has an interesting twist to it. So the best thing you can do is you can get it at zero interest and elongated repayment period, but rarely you'll always hear her say, nimekuchukulia pesa ya chama. You're like, their money always has an attachment to it, and so you must pay the price. So the dynamics have to be that the two of you, best from a love standpoint, usually the woman comes on the table seeing, can this man fund my future projects? Can she fund my dreams? And then she accepts you. In fact, they say, when a lady says she loves you, momentarily she's saying, I like what you're doing to me now or for me now. If that changes the next minute, she can tell you, I hate you. So the conversation around money is intricate in that sense. But as a man, you have a responsibility to those who are called to your name, so to say.
Yes.
So work hard, do your best. Sometimes even your best will not bring money and that will cost you trouble, but who knows? I think there's a musician who says, God has a day for you, so keep going. And that's really what I'm saying, that the money conversation around the man is, men are really strained for lack of having prior conversation on how that context will look like.
All right.
Talking about even personality that Anastacia alluded to, I'm a happy soul. If I didn't get my wife, Kendi, I don't think my children would have an inheritance, because for me, I'm like, someone has a problem that is bigger than rent. Why can't I give her my rent money or him my rent money and sort out... There's a day my house was locked because I delayed to pay rent before I got married, that is. Now I can't dare.
Good to hear, Kendi, they're like, wait, what?
Yeah, but then Kendi found out, I think we were dating. Then she asked me, what lesson have you learned? I don't know, I've realized if your house gets locked, you don't die. Like, which is so... Money conversation must be on the table. It's a very intricate conversation. And I think if you get it right there, there's a sense in which even your love flourishes.
Now, there's always also this conversation around men that, you know, women, we have a biological clock and men have a financial clock to work towards. Do you agree with that?
I agree. Every man, when they say, I'm dating this man for 20 years and he's not committing, it's because his finances, he's looking at the dream you have as a woman and looks at how his effort and his reward mechanism, and they're not adding up. So he can't commit. You're the one eating maybe, let's say, some expensive meal, and the guy, you know very well, his monies are not aligned. So he just realizes this is a struggle. Ever wondered why you love each other and you still sign some paper to say through thick and thin? Or till death do us part? I had a joke that till death could mean someone else. Anyway, but the conversation is that it is true.
Yes.
When a man wants, that's why they say ladies mature faster than us. But it's because really you can come on the table just because you're beautiful and we accept you, and whether you'll add anything, it's immaterial. But for a man, you can't come and say, me, I'm the hottest guy. It doesn't work like that, you know?
This question that men go around, what are you bringing to the table?
Bringing on the table. The man is the one who has.
Let me come to you, Kendi. You know, understanding your personality individually before you get into the institution of marriage or a committed relationship. What did that look like for you, if you are comfortable sharing that?
I think for
or rather how that shifted once you got into marriage.
I'm an introvert, he's an extrovert, like 100%. I'm a planner, he's not. So I think when we got married, we did the personality test before, but it didn't make sense until when we started living together, when you got married. And you realize some of those things could be a source of conflict.
Yes.
You know, like how he spends, like how we say, like he would see, like Juma has a very big heart. KBC, you know. But you see now for me, things need to make sense.
Yes.
If we're talking about rent, where is the rent? Before you start giving out money. We did another personality test, which like also helped me understand my spending habits and his spending habits.
Yes.
And just even, there's a question I'd asked about maybe if the husband is a provider, I mean he's a provider, but maybe he doesn't have a strength in planning. And in our society, we believe, say the husband has to do this, he has to do this, he has to plan. But you know, I think these days, you can both agree. If the wife is a good planner, she can be the one who is doing the budget, and you both bring your resources together.
So it's not about following this template that society has put out.
No.
Traditionally, man, woman, he give everything to man, then he plans.
No. I think understanding your personality, your strengths as a couple. I like planning, I like budgeting, I'm the kind of person who go to a supermarket, I have my list and all. He's not that kind of person. Juma anaweza toka na TV na alikuwa anaendea maziwa. But just understanding what your strengths are and supporting each other. I believe marriage is about you two agreeing on issues. You know, don't go with the template that society has, but the two of you can agree what works for the two of you. But for us, personality really helped a lot. And we're able to say, maybe Kendi, you can do the planning. Juma can, if it comes to looking for stuff now, because for me being a planner, at times I'll take a while. I have to be very sure about my decision. But he's the kind of person who'll be like, let's go for this. So you both need to understand your personalities as far as finances are concerned.
You both need to understand your personalities as far as finances are concerned, because that is the other area most couples struggle. We hear from, I've had so many couples say, hey, our first 7 years, we started getting along when it comes to money, the 9th year of marriage, because all along we were always arguing, huyu anapenda kuspend, mimi sipendi, huyu anapenda kusave, mimi sipendi, or we just couldn't agree. Now that brings me to you, Doc. You know, when it comes to now planning for the money, there are 3 schools of thoughts here that I shared with you last week. You know, there are those who say, and especially where bills are involved. One who say husband takes care of the biggest chunk of the bills than the wife. Another says 50-50 when it comes to splitting bills. And another school of thought is as per their income. All right. Now, how would you advise couples to go about this, to just get something that works for them as opposed to what is proposed?
Thank you very much. I want to repeat this, that marriage is an institution, and being an institution, it has to have structures. And we have to remind ourselves what brought us together. Number one, we are talking about love. Love is a coded message that works in marriage. And therefore, where there is love, there has to be communication. And mostly in marriages, there is no communication because people don't want to commit. You know, you're a couple and you have come together. Even the Bible says that what God has joined, let no man put asunder. And he brought 2 and they became 1. And where there is agreement, that agreement has to be communicated, and that has to be coded in a code love. And where there is love, there has to be communication. And when you communicate, there is that commitment. You know, when you communicate, you commit. And sometimes that is why you don't find loud timbers, because when you're communicating, like Kendi is saying, you have to come up with a budget. You have to plan. You have goals. We have short-term goals, we have long-term goals. And remember, I like the way Kendi has brought it out, that they had at sitting, even when they were courting. That is pre-arrangement before marriage. We call it premarital counseling, whereby you prepare yourself. And she was able to know that Juma has this kind of a personality, and he behaves this way, allowed money. And that one, I'm sure, if I may not be long, it has helped you to know how you're moving as a couple. And therefore, we have to come to that point whereby we have to commit. And most commitment in marriage, I have to say, Juma, there has to be commitment in writing. Because if it's not written, there is no commitment. And that one built a responsibility, allowed that money. And where there is responsibility, that is where you agree, I am earning 10,000. He is earning 100,000, or I'm earning 50,000, he's earning 10,000. Of course, we need to agree, honestly. I cannot tell him to pay a rent of 20,000 and he's earning 10. You bring his ego down. And when you bring the ego of a man down, there is no marriage, by the way, because he feels threatened, and that is how a man goes and looks for a lesser factor. And so, that lesser factor can even be a house girl or anybody, you know, somebody who can be, you know, men love submission. And therefore, there has to be that harmony. Allowed marriage. We are talking about love, money, and finances. There has to be harmony. And therefore, as we said last time, there has to be budgeting. And when you budget, you commit it in writing. And when you write it down, there has to be somebody who is taking responsibility. And that is where you agree, can we have a common pool? You can. There are some rules, that a principle that some say that we can have a 50, 30, 20. 50, 30, 50 is whereby we are going to have a common pool where we are going to put our money. And this money is for the basic need, utility, like utility bills. You have to cater for the education of your children, and then the healthy, what matters most. That is the 50%. And you can agree, I'll be giving this amount, I'll be giving this amount. You put it in a common pool. You can put it in an account. You can have the 30. The 30 is whereby you meet the wants. Like, he can go to the supermarket and pick the best hoofer. Please let him not be. Yes. But that one, if it fits in the 30, then as a couple, remember, even the Bible says that a good man leaves an inheritance for the children. Therefore, there has to be saving. We cannot be in lento for all the time. There has to be savings. So you can agree, the 50 will be putting it together in account to meet the utility bills and to meet the basic needs. Then we'll have the wants. You can have different account. That couples works different. And then the 20, let's save together. Again, you remember, there is a lot of debate about savings. Who owns what?
Okay.
Yes.
Again, you haven't answered my question. Yes. When it comes to this splitting of bills, because bills have to be paid. And let me come to you, Kendi. You know, 50-50, 70-30, depending on the proportion, the higher proportion being for the husband, or as per your earning?
I'm from almost like the 50, not 50, like putting things together. But I think I'm sort of like inclining towards that school of thought. Because at the end of the day, we are one unit.
Yes.
We'll have things to be sorted out. But for me, the way I look at it is, if we can agree, maybe if it's Kendi take care of the house, he will take care of the rent. But we still, when it comes to common projects, we can put our funds together. Say, like, if you're going to buy a piece of land or you're going to build, let's put our funds together. Because even if I spare some money, at the end of the day, it's for what? I look at the common good of our family. You know, if I have some spare money and maybe, like, he's in business, na struggle na hana pesa, you know, it will not help. So I think for me, I would incline towards the third school of thought. But we're able to sort out things and not let one suffer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Duncan, if we're being practical.
As I mentioned earlier, that the goodness with, as a man, you go all out and do what you need to do for your family. But once in a while, just know that from an African standpoint, you can access your wife's money at zero interest. Just know you will pay it back at some point. They never have money hanging around. You know the way they say we have some money. Actually, could you help me 100,000? Like, I have some money for the chama. You need to give it back by Tuesday. And by the way, they can stress you on your repayment. So negotiate your repayment very properly so that you don't suffer under the sun. Or in your own, you can even be afraid to go back to your own home.
Yes.
Or go home tipsy, because then when they say it can pass over your head. But the point I'm saying is, I think you're a team. If you figure out hunting as a pack, then you're going somewhere. A level comes when even things happen in families. Your health can beat, you know, things can happen. And sometimes how you behave around money dictates how you will... What happens, there are certain behaviors you do with money that makes you scared of yourself. Like you even fear that people will not take care of you because of how you are either hoarding or being... Like if you hide some money from your spouse, for that lack of a better word, there's a level at which you also start feeling that there are other things that are being hidden from me. So prudence, it dictates that if you're able to go all out and serve your family, but if you work as a team, the strength, the leverage, the enjoyment, the joy. Think of a scenario where if you were building a house and your wife decided to buy the gate, the level of happiness she will have because she has a stake in that. You know, you've heard of scenarios where people say, I got married to this guy, but I found him with everything. So sometimes this guy can say, when I was in this house, I didn't have much headache. This other piece came in and, you know, but if you participated in buying the table together, there's a sense in which you can say, let's sit down and sort things out because you're seeing yourself in the details. So I think I propose a partnership. We've tried budgeting. I think we have our budgets in our heads. It never really works. I don't know, but there's a sense in which we know what our needs are, our projected needs, but then where you feel you need help. From a business standpoint, I don't have like a regular, you know, so one day God can bless me with a level of money, but usually that money also disappears. I think there's a concept we were taught called contra-entry, like the debit side, and so because of that, then you plan around what you have, not what is coming, or else you will die under pressure, under the sun. But the reward is that if you do projects jointly, even your love language becomes better. Even your level of peace to hang around your people is better. Yeah. And maybe also to say, it's a thankless job. Sometimes men are rarely rewarded for their effort. I just for the men's conference, I thought I should share it.
You just needed to throw it in there. All right. Remember, this is a conversation all around marriage, love, and finances. Just looking at how we can build a happy, financially happy marriage, for that matter, or committed relationship. Again, we welcome you to share with us your thoughts, your question, your comments, or if you're just seeking clarification, we welcome you to do that. But before we take a very quick break, let me come to you, Anastacia. Why is it important to talk about money before marriage as opposed to, you know, after marriage?
Thank you very much. I want to say, and again, I like the way this discussion is going because it's quite a little talk. I want to say that money has to be talked about before marriage. Why? We are fighting Wambui. You get married, and you get married to somebody who does nothing. You're a woman, you're working. You know, I think we need to talk this. You're working, but the man or the woman is doing nothing. You know, it can be either way. And you just want to join up together. And then when you join up together, this is what happens. Because this man or this woman knows that he's taking care of everything, there is non-committal. And therefore, it's good to ask as the couple, even as you're getting married, what are you doing? And there is nothing wrong, Juma, when the family are asking you what they are doing, because they mind the welfare of their daughter, or they mind the welfare of their son. Because honestly, with the current economic strain, you need to ask each other, what, even as you're not doing anything now, but what do you plan to do? What can you do? You know, it is always good to talk about it, because when the strain is too much on one person, and it has happened, there is conflict starts from the word go, and therefore talk about it, and that is when, you know, that is still when there is the love is hot in the air. That is the best time whereby somebody will disclose, I earn 50,000, I sometimes I don't get money, like the way Juma has said that sometimes he gets money because he is in business, you know, the fracas with business. But when you talk about it, especially before, but unfortunately, people are talking about money after, which is very unkind to some of us, because how will I know what my husband does? You know, if he's a thief, let me know early. If he's a womanizer, let me know early that some money will be spent somewhere else. But when I know what he does, I commit to that marriage, or I decide. I usually say it's better a broken courtship than a broken marriage. And money is very important, but you have to talk about it. Even when you talk about love, he has said it, Juma has said it very well, that love is built along money, because it flourishes well when there is money. And therefore talk about it. Talk about the money that you're going to take to in-laws, because if he's earning 50,000 and I'm taking 20,000 to my mother-in-law or to my mom, and I'm not speaking about it, and when I talk about it there is a conflict, I think it's not right. Let's say that we'll be giving our parents this amount of money, we'll be helping, all of a sudden, okay, some cultures I find it weird, whereby immediately I get married, my brothers, my sisters, they're all crowding my house. I even get the braided family. I even get confused. Talk about it. Okay. Will your brothers come? Will your cousins come? How will we? You know, he can be earning 100,000, but then the only money that we have as a family is 10,000. Let's be realistic. Okay. Also, when there is somebody is not working, let them be asked, what are you planning to do? Like, that is what I ask men, because the man is the head of the house, and the Bible has told him he's the head of the house. I ask him, now that you're bringing your family together, what will you be doing with this family? Remember, within 2 or 3 years, you'll be getting a baby. So talk about it, and talk about it openly. Let everybody be responsible, because that is when, and you can buy the school of thought, as I never answered your question. If you talk about it before, that is where you buy the school of thought, that you'll be paying house rent.
All right.
You'll also be buying grocery.
Okay.
And you agree.
Better a broken courtship than a broken marriage. Quote for the day. Now, we want to take a very quick breather. We'll be back to continue with this discussion. Keep talking to us. I will be sampling your comments in and not too long. Stay with us.